Greetings, true believers. I'm Ed Berliner. Welcome back into the Talk Sports Network and also Silverman on Soccer, the beautiful game. No Ted Lasso here. I swear to God, I'm going to get Sudeikis on this show one day if it kills me, which it probably will because that is usually reserved for somebody who's got a lot more money than us, but we'll keep trying anyway. We may not have Ted Lasso, but we have something better. We have the veteran play-by-play analyst, the man who knows the game inside and out because he is the soccer expert. He is Silverman on Soccer. It is a pleasure once again to welcome Bruce Silverman to the show. Good day, sir. And by the way, let me, right off the top of the show, let me congratulate you. Very nicely done with a, is that a Miami Toros jersey, the old style?
No, this is not a Miami Toros jersey. This is for my friends at Rio Grande Valley.
Okay.
I called in 2019. I probably called 6 of their games, and they won every single game. So they send me a jersey. It's got my name on the back. It says number 19, and so I thought I would rep for the USL Championship RGV Toros, who are the affiliate of the Houston Dynamo. So broke that one out of the closet this morning. Feeling pretty good about it. It's a cool shirt. It's got a great sponsor, Nature Valley.
That's nice. Yeah, one of these days when we do the show, I will break out my Bumblebee jersey from the old Fort Lauderdale Strikers, which I think, if I remember right, will fit me like usually anything fits a Kardashian at this point in my life. You know, it will be really, really tight, and I will need oxygen. Let's go ahead and get to it then and get on to the beautiful game, if you will. Let's talk about, specifically, we want to talk an awful lot tonight about the U.S. men's national team. The United States men's national team beats Mexico. Everybody is wonderful. Everybody feels happy. Yay, World Cup. Hang on a sec. I'm going to be the guy who's going to drop the turd right in the punch bowl here for a second.
Bring it.
We hear this all the time, Bruce. We have people who are telling us that, yay, American men won, we're in the World Cup, and then we stink the joint up somewhere along the line. So I'm trying to be fair about it, and I want them to succeed, but what makes this success any different from any other where the men's national team crashes and burns at the end?
Well, I think the difference is the other day with the 2-0 win over Mexico, they didn't crash and burn. So anytime that the U.S. have a cap and they go out and they have success, that's a good thing for the club. And then everybody gets excited about American soccer. They get excited about the U.S. men's national team. And that excitement goes until they play the next match. And the expectations have to be leveled. They have to be managed. And then what do they do in the next matchup? And the next matchup? And the next matchup? Look, we are under a year away from going to Qatar and playing some football. And I think everything that is going to happen throughout the next number of months leading up to the 22 games and then coming back to the United States, Canada, Mexico kind of triangle of World Cup for 26, I think that the next 4.5 years of soccer in the United States may very well set the tone for what happens for the next 50 years in this country.
Okay, but boy, you opened up an awful lot of Pandora's boxes here, and I'm going to hit each one of them because, you know, I've been covering this game for a long time, not as deeply as you. Here we are again. I'm sorry, Bruce. I'm exasperated like a lot of soccer fans in America because you just said, well, let's see. We've got the World Cup coming up. Oh, but wait, another 4 years off is when we're going to be dangerous. Why the hell aren't we dangerous now?
No, but I didn't say that
that's the way it came
across. We're going to be dangerous. What I said was that everyone gets excited when we win, and when you knock off a team like Mexico, it's a big win. But now the expectations go up a notch. So what happens in the next match and the next match? And the fact of the matter is, this is all about qualifying. We've got to qualify for 22. And then we're the host in 26. I'm not saying wait until 26 for results. I'm saying that the next 4 years, how this club plays, what happens with USSF, what happens with American soccer in general, is going to have a lot to do with the success of the U.S. men's national team throughout the run to Qatar and then leading up to the triangle taking care of business in 26.
Okay, but I'm going to stick on this right now. Let's stay in the now because,
Okay.
again, American soccer fans, specifically American men's soccer fans, let's separate that, because the women's team is a phenomenal team. We need to talk to them about them as well. But let's stick to this. The men's soccer team has always let us down. Let's be real honest here. So we're talking about beating Mexico.
It's been hard for the
Mexico,
team.
but why are soccer fans across America to expect that this team, this side right now, will not let them down again?
Okay, so let's break this down. Let's start with national pride in general. Let's equate the World Cup and the U.S. men's national team to the Olympics. We always expect that the United States is going to win more medals than any other country, that we're going to win more gold medals than any other country, that we're going to dominate regardless of the sport and regardless of where the games are being played. So I think a lot of the expectation with the U.S. men's national team is tied into our pride in our athletics because of the success we've had, for 100 plus years in the Olympic Games. Soccer is a sport that we have not been able to dominate on the world stage. Not like the women's team. We're talking about the men's team. They have not been able to dominate. In a lot of cases, they let down the fans. They don't rise to the expectations. There is talent. There is a lot of talent. There should be a lot of depth with this U.S. men's national team.
Should be.
I think they're still looking for an identity. I was speaking with some people earlier over the weekend that felt that previous manager was jettisoned too soon, that they just should have stayed with the course and let it play out and let his system develop. Obviously, they pulled the plug, and now we're looking at a different coach who's starting things over, and I think that's part of the problem as the players in this country have gotten better. And the development of players in this country have gotten better. And it's because the college game has gotten better. The youth game has gotten better. The pro game has gotten better. We're seeing players go through development, homegrown players in MLS. We've seen USL investing in the future and having academies as well. So we've seen lower division soccer feeding upper division soccer. We have so many players on the U.S. men's national team that are playing overseas. They're playing Bundesliga. They're playing EPL. They're playing La Liga. And so because we have players on a world stage, the expectation has become that much higher.
And I'm going to give you every single thing you said, and I'm going to agree with it. The game is better. The high school game, the college game, the pro game, the different pro leagues that are here. We're turning out better players. But again, I hate to do this. I'm going to be that stickler.
We don't make expectations.
We say the same things over and over again every 4 years, but you just indicated in your statement, I think, which is a key here, is that things keep changing. Not doing well, fire the manager. Not doing well, fire the coach. Not doing well, fire the person in charge at the top. It seems as if we continue to be this knee-jerk nation when it comes down to the men's team because, oops, wait a minute. Something's not going right. In 2 years, we got to change everything. And it all starts again. This knee-jerking has got to stop sooner or later, right?
But it happens. Look, I believe, look, you and I have been soccer fans for a very long time. We have covered the sport for a long time. We went to the same games as a child and watched the same players, because of the area that we grew up and what we've been into and everything else. So you and I come from the same kind of glasses.
We have the same mindset about
glasses.
It. Yes, I got it.
Yes.
Yep.
So looking at the growth of American soccer, you have MLS, you have USL Championship, League One, League Two, you have NISA, you have UPSL, MPSL.
Yes.
We've had all of these soccer leagues. We're developing more players. More people are paying attention to the soccer in the United States than ever before.
Right.
But we have a lot of issues within the structure of American soccer.
There you go.
We have it, and it's from the top down. There are issues at USSF. I know in future weeks we're going to get into what's been going on with the women's professional game and the sexual issues and allegations of abuse, and we've seen them in American men's sports as well. We've got all of these different vegetable soups, if you will, of letters that indicate different levels in different soccer leagues. The problem is it's the Wild West. MLS is doing their thing. USL is doing their thing. Nice is doing their thing. NPSL is doing their thing. USPL is doing their thing. USSF has to get it all together, but they have to do it with the mindset, what is in the best interest of the game, not what's in the best interest for USSF, not what's in the best interest for MLS, not what's in the best interest for USL or any other league and organization out there. The problem is we are not doing it. Remember when, because you'll appreciate this, when's the last time you heard the phrase "in the best interest of baseball" uttered by a commissioner of Major League Baseball?
What time is it now?
You're going to go back and do the math on that one?
No, I'm not. I don't have to do the math. I'm saying, let's see, what time is it now? Let's go back 60 seconds. Because that's probably been it when I have seen that. You are right. We are then at that stage, and you've coalesced this. What will it take to finally bring all this together? Because again, you're right. We've got all these different entities that are out there turning out great soccer players, but everybody seems to have their own little niche involved, and I want to stay here, and I want to stay here, and I don't want you, and I don't need you, and I'm not going to get together with you. Meantime, you get USSF sitting right there. What the hell is it going to take? Because it's been decades, it seems, where nobody wants to get together and nobody wants to have the national effort. And in the end, that screws us up when we get to things like the Olympics and the World Cup for the men.
I think if I could walk into a room and say, folks, this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to make soccer in America finally, after 30, 40, 50 years.
I make you commissioner. Go right ahead. Do something. You have the grand poobah.
Well, there's not a commissioner. It'd be the president of USSF.
Okay, I give you the grand poobah reins. I give you the Lord Almighty reins. Go for it.
Okay, but if I do this, you got to get me the grand poobah hat from the Flintstones for the next time around.
We'll figure it out and we'll get you one here. But all right, you are now in control. What needs to be done? What simple steps that we have to do to finally put everybody on the same page and stop this nonsense about, oh, we're getting better, we're doing better, we have more American players, and we still suck by the time the big game comes around?
The way I would do it is, number one, at USSF, I would clean house, bring in veterans of different sports, including soccer. I would bring in somebody to oversee broadcast. I would see somebody to bring in to oversee player development, to work with all of the different leagues. That's what I would do at the top. The other thing is I would bring in every league and I would bring in their representation so that every league in this country, men's and women's, could be equally represented, because every league plays a role in the development of soccer in this country. It is not just about the amateurs. It's not just about the professionals. It's about everything. And the other thing that I would do to build the excitement of this sport when we're not necessarily in the World Cup environment. One of my favorite tournaments every single year is the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. The U.S. Open Cup and they've been playing it for over 100 years. It is different teams throughout the country, amateur and professional, that get to play in a one-and-done scenario until you crown a champion. Obviously, over the last, 20-plus years, or maybe not quite that long, it's been an MLS team that has won the U.S. Open Cup. But there have been years where amateurs have snuck up and bitten MLS teams and won championships. I think for the good of soccer in this country, the U.S. Open Cup needs to be given a bigger stage. It needs to be publicized more. It will make fans throughout this country in communities that don't have MLS teams, that don't have USL teams, that don't have NISA teams, to stand up and take notice. We're Americans. We love the underdog, right? We love when
we love the underdog, but we want to win, damn it. Come on, we're America. Grant, go ahead, hit the flag.
Here's where I'm going with this.
We hate second, but second place is first loser.
Right, and I get that, and I get that. But we love the underdog in this country. We love that story. That's why, look, I just got back from Vegas. That's why you can go and bet on a team that's 1,000 to 1 to win, because we just dig that. So right now, what it comes down to is if I fix everything at the top of USSF and I filter it down so that every league in this country is being represented, then then once you've got that, you build on the infrastructure. You play up US Open Cup. You play up the development of players. You go out and either, whether it's the coach we have now or you go out and you get another one and you say, we are going to give you multiple cycles to get this right. We're not going to panic if we go out and we lose to, Costa Rica.
Well, which
we
we've
are
done
going
before.
to see this through.
To be fair, that's happened before. I've heard those excuses before. So let me.
But we've never had the quality of players that we have now.
Well, granted, but we were always told the players were getting better. So let's be real. The United States has really good soccer talent on the men's side. It's not as if all of a sudden in the last 5 years it's gotten magically better. Somebody came down, boing, hit them with a wand, and they're all of a sudden international favorites here. And they've been really good. Granted, we're going to get better. Everybody gets better. But the fact of the matter is, with all those improvements, we only get so far, and then we stop. And that's what people
I think part of it comes
tired of.
I think part of it comes down to the selection of players. Do we have the best American players playing in our national system? Every time there's a cap, it's the same group of players, and then they're surrounded by a few different guys throughout the system, right? There are some guys that I think can really contribute to the U.S. men's national team who have gotten caps in the past, who are not currently representing the country. Number one, Daryl Dike from Orlando City. This kid is an absolute beast out of the University of Virginia. He is built like a linebacker. He is a striker that likes the ball at his feet. He doesn't have to play back to goal. He's very dynamic, and he's one of the few guys in the United States that can kick a ball and deflate it at the same time. So I don't know exactly why Daryl Dike, who has gotten caps in the past, is not part of this team, but I would want him there because he's a punishing force. Whether you start him or whether you bring him off the bench and he runs on like a pitcher coming out of the bullpen to close down a game. The other one is he may be a little long in the tooth because I think he's in his 30s now, but there really isn't a faster player in MLS than Fafa Pakal, who's from Miami, who now plays for the Houston Dynamo. Had an absolutely incredible season for a very poor team. And why he's not on there, because he is a dynamic player. So there's two players, homegrown United States players playing in MLS, that are not on that squad. The question is why. They're both scorers, and they can both flat out score. And if you want to win a World Cup, you got to do two things. You got to put the ball in the back of the net because you need goals, and you got to prevent goals from being scored. So if we can pitch a shutout against Mexico, that's a good thing. We just need more firepower up front, and we have to be more consistent match after match, year after year. And more than anything else, Ed, it comes down to the mental toughness. You look at Deutschland, you look at England, you look at some of the, Brazil and Spain and Portugal, some of these programs around the world that year in and year out are the ones that are favored to win the World Cup. They have a mental mentality that they're going in, and they're Argentina, another one, that they're going to go in and they're going to win. And it's an upset when they don't.
So in your opinion, then the United States is lacking in that mental toughness? We just don't have it here?
And yes, and the question I was going to ask you is, when is the last time that the United States played in a World Cup and we won and they said it was an upset, and we lost and they said that was an upset?
You tell me.
I think it's been a while. I think it's because we haven't played up to expectation, because I don't think we necessarily stick long enough with a system to see it through, whether it's a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1 or whatever that formation system is, coaching staff and players. I think we need to have the same players for a year or 2 or 3, and maybe mix in a couple of guys when they retire or they get injured. But we seem to move the pieces too often.
But now here comes reality. I'm going to throw cold water on this right now. Your idea is wonderful. Put the best male players on the U.S. men's national team to win Olympics and to win World Cups. Great idea. However, players that you've talked about are professional players that are signed to professional contracts for the various different leagues in the United States. All these various leagues, MLS, USL, whatever you want to say. I'm the owner of a franchise. You can't have my guy because I got news for you. I got to sell tickets out here, and I got to put asses in the seats. Now, if you take my best player away from me and you put him out there for a year with the national team, I lose money, I lose fans, I lose games. I'm not doing it, and you can't have them. So you've got all these wonderful players sitting under professional contracts. How do you then take them and make them part of a national team when they've got to spend, what you just said, a year with the national team?
Well, no.
I'm not going to give you my best players for that. You're costing me money.
No. I'm not suggesting that we keep them out of their domestic leagues. What I'm saying is we shouldn't be shuffling players in and out of caps. We should have a lineup that stays together for a period of time. Don't forget, more than half of the U.S. men's national team does not play in MLS. So they're coming from whatever
half of them do.
They're playing. Yeah.
But half of them do. And still, if I'm an MLS owner, I'm more interested in my bottom line and making my team succeed. Granted, I love America. I'll put on my hat. I'll wave my flag. But that bottom line is what I want. Aren't you still telling me that if you want him to be part of the USMNT, that you're going to interfere with a season sooner or later because a season's long?
Well, it happens.
So you're going to take my guy away. You can't have it.
But see, that happens. But let's break this down. Every MLS team, we'll just start with MLS for a second. Every MLS team is made up of players from the United States, players from around the world. And most of the players that come from around the world, they tend to have had some type of relationship with their national team.
Yes.
So we already have the issue that when there are international games, you see players that have to leave their MLS clubs and go join their national team. And then that makes the MLS teams have to rely on their system, on their depth, to be able to get through games without their starting players who, obviously they're starting players because they're the best players.
Which as an owner, I'm not thrilled with in the first place.
Represent their country.
Right. As an owner, I'm not thrilled with that in the first place because I'm losing some of my best players that are going overseas.
Okay, so herein lies one of the difficulties. And this brings up a whole other can of worms in terms of U.S. soccer. We play on our own schedule. We do not play on the world schedule, right? So there is a time of the year where EPL plays and we don't. And there's time of the year where we play and they don't. Until it can be figured out how everyone in the world can be on the same calendar, you're going to have what you just described. You're going to have players having to leave their MLS team to go represent their country. It doesn't matter what country they're representing. If they're playing in MLS, that's happening. Now, on the flip side of it, EPL, they're on an international schedule. And also, when you get to some of these tournaments, some of these leagues are not playing or they'll shut down for a period of time so that the best players can play and the domestic leagues aren't affected. But there is too much of a concern. How can you play football on the international schedule? How can you play soccer in New England in January, for instance, in December? That becomes the issue because they are playing football in the Premier League in January.
Yes.
But we don't play football in this country at that time.
Then
there have been domestic leagues. Like, for instance, at one point, there was a discussion about lower level soccer and one of the leagues in lower level soccer switching to the international schedule. And that may very well have been a game changer for American soccer. Again, another question, another topic for another day. But these are all of the factors that go into the success or failure of the U.S. men's national team. It's not as simple as taking a couple of guys and saying, we've got the best players, go out and play. Because part of it is I don't think that we train enough. To me, the game of soccer is all about knowing what your teammate likes and doesn't like. When you go, and Ed, you've been there too, I've been there. You go to practice and you watch teams practice, you get that Jim Mora thing going. But when
actually, I was thinking more of Allen Iverson. Practice, man, practice. You're talking about practice?
No, well, it was
practice,
Iverson.
What are you doing? Practice,
but I always loved doing the Mora imitation.
True.
Practice. His voice got so high, it was like he just hit puberty. I think what happens is, and this goes back to me about changing the players around. When you go to practice, when you're lucky enough to see professionals practice, they all get to know the tendencies of their teammates. When I would go to practice, I'd see guys talk about, when you pass to me, this is where I want it. This is the way I want you to lead it. This is where I want it because this is how I can move towards goal faster. And they have those discussions and then they work them out. I don't think that we get enough of the opportunities to work with our players when we bring them in and out, especially when, MLS season is going on or the EPL is going on. Because don't forget, and I'm just picking on those two leagues, but when you have a cap like we had against Mexico the other day, you got guys on the U.S. men's national team that play in MLS, they play in Bundesliga, they play in the EPL, they play in La Liga, and you have to bring them all together. You've got, what is their fitness like? What is their jet lag like? What is this like? What is that like? And I don't necessarily know that we have all the answers at the top to be able to make sure that once it gets down to actually playing ball, we're ready to go.
Couple of minutes we have left here, then I'm going to throw this out because I know that I'll get hammered for it, but I'm going to do it anyway. It would seem to me that in everything it will take to create a proper and a solid and a competitive U.S. men's national soccer team, that this country will not win a World Cup until every single player is signed to a national contract, and 12 months out of the year, 365 days out of the year, they are only playing for the national team, competing in international games, and pushing towards the World Cup. Until we get to that stage and stop this sharing nonsense, the United States will never win a World Cup.
I don't think that's realistic. I would say
why not?
The closest I think we got to that, if you remember back to, I think it was 1983, in the original
I was only
NASL,
12, I forget.
In 83, no, I was a little bit older.
Okay.
But I don't think I could drive on my own in 83. No, I couldn't. So in 1983, in the original NASL, they created a team called Team America. And if you remember, Team America played at RFK. The concept for that team is very similar to what you just suggested. They tried to get every player that was going to represent the United States to play for Team America in the NASL schedule. The problem with that scenario is there were certain teams around the league that would not release their players that year to play for Team America. An example, the Cosmos wouldn't let Davis play for them. Ricky Davis.
See?
All right?
But there you go.
So
that's exactly my point.
Right. So right there, that was the issue, and then it became more. And I was very lucky to become very good friends with Chico Borja, who played for the U.S. men's national team. He was an American. He played for the Cosmos, and he played on Team America. And he shared some of those stories with me. And he said it was one of the greatest experiences of his life, but because not every player was able to be released to play for that team, it didn't really match what its potential was. And in the '84 Olympics, that Team America, went 1-1-1 in play. But I bring that up because your suggestion is everybody gets signed to contracts and they don't play in any domestic leagues.
Right.
Well, if you do that, then you're only limited to having them play full games during qualifiers or during actual Olympics or World Cups.
They can play exhibitions.
That's not enough playing time for these players. That's number one. Number two, we as a country and the USSF and anybody else that's going to foot the bill for the American soccer effort on the world stage,
there you go.
No one is going to pay the salaries of some of the guys that play on the U.S. men's national team to tie them up for a year or two or three to not play in EPL or Bundesliga or MLS or anything else. So from there, it's a financial situation that this country is not prepared to be able to absorb those types of salaries. And on top of everything else, it all comes down to money. We just talked about how it's money for the players' salaries, but it's money in terms of the marketing, the television rights, and everything else to those events and how it's covered in this country. We do really well as Americans watching our product. We love the NFL. Ratings, now the fans are back in the building, ratings are going up, fans are enjoying being in the game. Being at the game. I was just in Las Vegas. I haven't been in Las Vegas since the Raiders moved. Everywhere you go, you see Raiders stuff. It's as if they have been playing for the last 50, 60 years in Vegas the way that team has been adopted. The same with the Knights. So what this country needs is we need to be patriotic when it comes to the American game on all the days and all the times that our national teams do not play. And we're not there yet. We are not a soccer nation yet. And that's why, going back to our original part of this conversation, the USSF, in my opinion, has to be overhauled so that we have an opportunity to become a soccer nation. We're part of the top five, obviously, with Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NHL, and the NBA. We're part of the top five. For us to become a soccer nation, we have to break into the top three, then two, and then we need to challenge the NFL for number one. I think we are on a pathway for it. There's a lot of work to be done. At the end of the day, the next 6 years, I said this, in the next 5 years.
You did.
Our efforts through the World Cup that we'll be part of hosting, this is the time, this is the kick in the grass. Remember that from the old NASL days? And we really thought that the old NASL was going to carve the path to American dominance in soccer, and then we saw the NASL overexpand, underperform, undervaluate, and it imploded. We need the next 5 years in soccer to see soccer in this country rise, whether it's in MLS or USL or NISA or anybody else, and we need to see that rise be in parallel with the U.S. men's national team's success. The women are a far more successful team than the men. I think the men can learn a lot from the women.
I think
in terms of how to be dominant. I don't necessarily know if the women and the men, in terms of who the leadership is, necessarily talks to each other and says, hey, you've got a recipe for success. We like to follow it. I think we're still in the mentality.
Sure. I mean, if I'm the men's team, I'm walking across the hall right now. I'm walking across the hall right now going to the women's team and going, look, you're kicking ass. How are you doing it? And let's go ahead and be part of that. But this comes back to the whole thing that I think fans are sick and tired of hearing, we're on the path. We're heading there. We're getting better. We're going to win a World Cup. I think fans are going, will you please just stop blowing smoke up my ass? Because you've been saying it far too long, and I'm tired of it. Give me some results, damn it. Give me a World Cup final. Give me a chance to be in that Final Four for a change.
Well, that's where we are. And I can say this.
I'm just a fan guy, man. I feel for the fans all the time. Fans deserve it.
Well, fans deserve more every time they support a team. And, with the exception of teams that win championships, everybody else deserves more from their team than they get.
Well, with the exception of fans of the New York Rangers, but that's something else. Go ahead.
Completely different story.
Of course.
Look, at the end of the day, one of the biggest pieces of progress that we've gotten in this sport, in this country, is the women's team is finally earning equal to the men. If it was up to me because of their success, they would earn more than the men.
I'd give them more right now. Here's
if we did that, maybe, just maybe the men would be a little bit hungrier because maybe they would have more to prove. Because think about it. The women were winning championships and the men weren't. And it's like it goes to this, and we can finish the show this way. I have said for years that I believe that one of the reasons why Tiger Woods has been so incredibly dominant over the course of his career is that from day one, he never had to go on the course in order to earn a living. With all of the endorsements and all of the upfront money and everything else that Tiger Woods got, he never had to worry about playing for his keep. And standing over a 5-foot putt that is worth $1 million if he wins the tournament and $500,000 if he loses the tournament, he's standing over a putt that's worth $500,000. To him, that's the money that he has in his pocket. And if I'm a qualifier and I'm sitting over that same putt and it's $1 million for the win and $500,000 if I miss the putt, I'm shaking like a leaf. And I think that's the difference. And I think if that same mentality gets to the men's team, I think we can start putting things like that have held us back. We can put those aside and we can start holding up some hardware. So if anybody wants me to run for USSF president and wants to back me on that, I am available. And then we can go from there. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue to talk about it. I'm going to continue to let my opinions be known. Good. I'm going to sit back and hope that we can continue to get 2-0 wins over just about everybody that we play. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Look, there's a lot of soccer left to be played domestically. The playoffs start this weekend in MLS. We just saw the USL League One reigning champions are now Union Omaha. How about that? Omaha, Nebraska with a national title. And now we're going to see a championship in USL Championship, and we're going to crown a champion in MLS. So I think we've pretty much talked this one through. I think the potential is there for the United States to be dangerous in the World Cup. We'll start with 22. We need to be competitive in 22, and we need to be among the finalists in 26. If we do that, the potential for growth in this country is going to be tremendous. If we don't get it, we may never get the opportunity again to make the United States a soccer country.
The Pandora's box closes for the day, and we will be certain to open it again. A reminder that if you want to get a hold of Bruce Silverman, all you have to do is go to his Facebook page, @BruceSilverman. Twitter is @SilvermanShow, and tell him that he looks absolutely marvelous, if you will, in the Toros jersey, even though I got it wrong at the top and thought it was the Miami Toros as well.
Well, hey, it says, you know what? Maybe next week I'll wear my Miami Toros shirt.
Good. Okay.
And if we really get into it, maybe in the middle of the show, I'll change to a Gatos shirt.
Okay, as long as you don't do it on camera. It's one of the least...
No, when you switch me, I'll change my shirt and then jump right back on.
Okay, yeah, I promise we'll switch, because I just don't think that the planet is quite ready for that. At least not yet. That'll be just fine.
I don't think I'm ready yet. I have to lose a little bit more weight. I need to get back in the game shape.
Bruce, thanks a lot, buddy. We'll see you next week.
All right, Ed. Thanks so much.
All right, man. A reminder again, check into Bruce Silverman. Also, don't forget, go to TalkSportsNetwork.com. You see all of our shows there. You can get a hold of me by going to Facebook and Twitter at Berliner Speaks, and we'll catch up there as well. For Bruce Silverman, for myself, thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We'll catch you next week. We'll talk more about the beautiful game and open up more Pandora's boxes. I'm Ed Berliner. For everybody here, rock on, true believers. See ya.